Hello, hello. Welcome back to another Tuesday. What the heck's going on in the housing market show? Hope you guys are doing well. I'm Jen Sylvester, up here in Massachusetts, Plymouth, Massachusetts, coming in live. And we're going to talk about what's happening in the real estate market, but I'm going to get you behind the headlines, is what I try to do every week. And, there's always more to the story. And that is always my goal, is to go a little deeper. Get a little deeper and find out what it actually means. Because, all these headlines, headlines sell. And they just want you to click on the article, click on the link, click on the YouTube video, and get your views. So we're going to dig into recession and whether the coming recession is going to affect how it's going to, potentially affect the housing market. Is it going to tank the housing market? Are we even in a recession? Are we even, potentially, is this something that is just talk? It's not real. It's not real. And what happens if we do head into a recession? How is what we're seeing now different than what we've seen in the past? Because we're in an unprecedented times. We've had the last 5 years. Why should it be any different going forward? But before we dig into the meat of the matter, just a couple housekeeping items before I bring my friend on to join me in a conversation. Couple weeks ago, I'm actually going to repost this post in the community section of my channel. I am doing some research on staging, and I'm putting together a video on really wanted to get some good content for you guys, some good advice on how to stage your home in a practical way. I am super practical. I am not all about spending money. I don't spend, I'm frugal, and I like to be frugal with my clients. So I want to give you practical tips, but I want to do real world staging advice on your stuff. I'd like to help you guys out at the same time. So I've got a form, and I'm going to resubmit that. I'll put the link, make a note of that. I'm going to put the link in the description. There's a short little form if you are getting your house ready to sell, or if you're just curious, and you want to send me a couple pictures of your pad. I will take a look at them and potentially feature them in my upcoming video, and I'll give you the advice best I can do, given that I'm not physically there. But I'd love to involve you guys in that process. So there's a poll. We'll get to the poll at the end of the video, and I think we're gonna get right to it. That's basically all I've got right now. So we're going to dig into the recession. I'm going to bring my friend on. He is coming from the West Coast. If you've been watching the show for a bit, you know him. You love him, and he's only got great stuff to say. He's got great input. So I'm going to bring on my friend, Mr. Joe Porecca.
Hey, Jen.
How you doing, Joe?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what I haven't done in a while? There we go.
All right.
Done that in a little
A
while.
roaring round of applause.
My friend Jackie Baker was giving me a hard time. She said, "You got that Stream Deck? You got all those sound buttons." And, I'm like, I get really focused on what we're talking about and all the things, and forget about it.
Yeah.
Good grief! But Joe, we're talking about recession today, and
Good. All right.
it's East Coast, West Coast.
Yes.
You got different things happening over in California than Massachusetts, albeit, two areas of the country that are, probably the most unaffordable areas in the country.
Yep.
But definitely different perspectives. So, I'm excited to dig right in. We got some folks joining us. We've got Donna from Michigan. I love to see it. You guys want to drop in the chat where you're watching from? That would be wonderful. We got right there. We got Cookie. I love that handle, Cookie. We've got Susan from Georgia, and with their house on the market now. Fantastic. And then Cookie says staging is expensive. Seniors have a hard time with this. Yes. You know what? And that's why I'm doing do want to do content on it, because you do not need to spend a lot of money. I'm pretty frugal, Joe. You know what I mean? I'm like, people do not need to spend. It drives me crazy. We're not going to talk about that in this video,
No.
this live stream, but
we're not going to go down that road.
I had a client, I had a viewer reach out to me for a listing referral, Tennessee area, and she had her house on the market prior,
Yep.
and the listing agent talked her into spending like $3,000 on staging, and my heart like ached for her because it was
I mean, yeah,
ridiculous.
there's better alternatives. I'm sure you're going to give some amazing advice to your viewers, and there are other ways to go about it. And that'll be a really good video. And actually, I love the idea of you having some viewers submit pictures there of their property or their house so that you can, kind of give them some feedback on maybe what staging needs to take place or doesn't need to take place.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised at the different levels of staging and how a little bit can really go a long way. So that'll be, I'm sure
Amen.
it's going to be a really great video.
Amen. Thank you for that. But we're talking about recession today. And when I was doing my research, Joe, and scanning the news as I do every week,
Yep.
to see what the hot button is. The big R word has been coming up more and more, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of reasons why that is, which I have some data on that. But this article came up a week ago. Yeah, last Thursday, not a week ago, but yeah, today. Oh my goodness, yesterday was St. Patty's Day, 13th, and it says rising fears of a recession and stagflation. I'll be honest, Joe, I'd never heard of stagflation before. It's a little bit of education for me. Should homeowners be concerned? So it says fears of a stagnation have turned to worry about a recession as economic growth stalls and inflation remains stubbornly above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. Hopeful homebuyers and sellers are uniquely frustrated. This was supposed to be their year. After the high highs and the low lows of the past 5 years, 2025 was expected to bring a much needed dose of normalcy back to the housing market. I concur with that. But the economic buzzwords du jour, this is a very eloquent article. Elegant buzzwords du jour have many homeowners, buyers, and sellers concerned that they're about to be taken for yet another ride. So, should homeowners be concerned about a recession or stagflation in the year ahead? Honestly, probably not.
Yeah.
Here's why. All right, then it gets into the difference. Which, have you ever heard of stagflation before, Joe?
I have heard of stagflation,
Oh,
and
good. I'm gonna read through this, and I'm gonna hear from you about this. So,
yeah,
recession versus stagflation. What's the difference? Okay, so the technical definition, and this is actually I wanted to get into this because I know that a lot of folks don't quite understand that it's not just one thing, two things, three things. Like it's a very complicated assessment of, it's like walking to a doctor and saying, doctor, it hurts when I do this. And then the doctor's going to diagnose you right away. Nope. It's kind of the same type of thing. So it says the technical definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative gross domestic product growth. But this definition is of little use to anyone other than economists and economists and policymakers, largely because it's backward looking. This is the hard part. You can't tell you're in a recession until you've been in one for 6 months. More broadly, recessions are periods of widespread economic downturn with a sharp spike in unemployment that slowly ebbs. Joe, even with the data that we see on unemployment, the data that we see on the gross domestic product, or any of those key factors, it's not real time. None of it's real time because they need time to process the data. So it's like, knowing when the car crash is going to happen, well, it already took place a couple months ago, but it took the investigators a couple months to figure out that, the cause and the severity and all the things. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
So it says a stagflation is a rarer, more complicated condition. It definitely sounds like a medical condition.
It sounds like something you don't want to get diagnosed with. It's like, I got stage 3 stagflation.
Stage 3 yes, I like that. All right.
Oh.
It's characterized by slow or no economic growth, high inflation, high unemployment. The economy of the U.S. in the 1970s is a primary example when a confluence of supply chain issues, geopolitical factors, and monetary policies sent prices and unemployment soaring in a high interest rate environment. A crucial difference between recession and stagflation is that a recession is considered a natural cycle of an economy, while stagflation is not. If you look back to 2023, some economists thought that a recession was necessary to cool the economy and reset the market after the rapid growth of 21-22. I remember that very
Yep.
clearly. Very, very clearly.
Yeah. Well, and I remember that a lot of the times, people would talk about a recession and we almost got into one because people talked about it so much.
Yes.
And that's one of those things with a recession.
I want to talk about that. And it's actually,
Yep.
I want to dig into that because I have some
Yep.
consumer confidence in information. So it's a stagnation, however, doesn't have this resetting effect. Instead, stagflation puts policymakers in an impossible bind. Lower interest rates to encourage hiring and lower unemployment, but risk sending prices even higher. That is a key concern right now. Or raise interest rates to bring prices under control, but cause an increase in already high unemployment. So, you know what? What is the answer? Before we dig in, I just want to say hi. Let's see. We're just going to check these. We get some chatter in the chat that I don't want to ignore. We got Cookie from Florida, Zerinthius from Texas here. So glad you guys are here. Let's see. We got David Matney in the house.
Hey, David.
Yes, Cookie's talking about the staging stuff. We'll probably do a live stream. Talk about that. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Janet Cruz in retirement. I love your handle. I'm in Georgia, but hubby cannot decide on the area to move to. That is always frustration. I will say, Joe, that's one of the benefits of being divorced. I could just, there's some definite cons, but that's one of the pros. All right.
Only one decision maker, only one brain.
You got it. Amazing. Doctor, it hurts when I do this. Quit doing that. Amen.
Great medical advice.
Yep. And Cookie says in intentional downturn due to policy and government choice, i.e. current evidence, current administration, eggs, rents, taxes. Yeah. So let's talk about the data. Let's talk about what's going on with this stuff, Joe. And tell me what you know about stagflation. What is some of your opinion on this conundrum here?
Yeah. So similar to kind of what that article said, stagflation is the real boogeyman, if you will. A lot of people think that unemployment, recession, interest rates are the big problems, but stagflation is really the biggest issue, and due in part because it's not typically part of the cycle like a recession is. I feel like a lot of people tend to maybe lose sight that it's impossible for any economy to just always be healthy, and our economy has done very, very well since about 2012, and we're quite overdue for a recession currently as it stands. And the stagflation portion is what's the real concern, because again, it's not normal and it's a little bit more painful than just a typical recession is. So stagflation is what we want to avoid. But kind of like what the article said, it's a very fine line, because you want to inject enough into the economy so that you avoid stagflation, but you don't want to inject so much that you cause greater inflation, which could lead to more recessionary, an outcome. So it's difficult, but stagflation is a big problem. And like the article said, in the 70s, we felt it through, and we had a lot of stuff going on in the 70s. We had a gas crisis, oil embargoes,
right. Yep.
And that was causing issues. Plus, we had high interest rates that were very high. So we definitely want to try to avoid that. I think people, I know this is probably gonna be hard for some to maybe absorb or understand, but quite honestly, people need to not worry so much about a recession. And it's hard to say that because recessions aren't fun, but we have to remember that they're normal, and recessions can lead to avenues of opportunity
Correct.
if
Correct.
you know where to look and how to look, and you're patient and you leverage yourself in the correct position.
Well, I think that's the key right there
Yeah.
is preparation. Preparation is key. Preparation not out of fear. You don't start building a storm shelter and prepping and all the things because you're preparing for doomsday, but smart preparation. If
Yeah.
you are thinking about moving and maybe it's a little bit of a stretch for you. Maybe you're like, you know what, I really want to do this. Where I'm going to is a little bit more expensive, or it's a little bit nicer house. And you know what, but I think I can do it. Maybe not, maybe now's not the time to kind of
Hmm.
stretch that, go that way. Or the other option being, if you need to move because of family, job, whatever the reason, whatever the necessity is,
Yeah.
um, you maybe better ideas to prepare by going a little bit more conservative. Buy a place
Yes.
that's a little bit smaller just in the interim. And then when you really have that good solid footing, then you can sell, buy that bigger property, so on and so
Yep.
forth. But protect your money. I mean, that's the big thing is making decisions that are, financially uh, more secure, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this is going to be a moving target, and some of the data. There's another article that I wanted to that brought up some good points about this as well that I want to get into. But you know, I did actually I'll bring this up now. Um, I did this actually in a live stream a couple weeks ago where this was a February 25th. This PR Newswire covered this consumer confidence index research. They researched like what was it, 36,000. Uh, 36 million consumers. It was the conference board covered this, and they determined that the consumer confidence level is at an all-time low and is
Yeah.
dropping by the minute.
Yeah, and it's not surprising with all the tariff talk, with all the Doge talk, with all the layoff talk. I mean, is it surprising to hear that consumers aren't mega confident in the economy?
Yep.
And it doesn't surprise me to hear that. And like kind of like we were talking about earlier, that's one of those things where what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the recession that comes first, or is it people that talk about the recession that brings the recession?
No, and that's true. I mean, it says in February, the expectation index it dropped 9.3 points to 72.9 for the first time since June 2024. The expectation index was below the threshold of 80 that usually signals a recession ahead.
Hmm.
Cutoff date for preliminary results was February 19th. It is what comes first, the chicken or the egg, because all of a sudden people are like, oh, I'm not confident in this economy. I don't know what's
Yep.
going on. I'm scared. I'm nervous. So I'm not going to buy anything. I'm not
Yep.
going to spend any money. Well, that in itself
Creates the
is
recession.
you now are not putting money into into the general economy. Not to
Yep.
say that you should do that. Not to say you should go
Right.
buy the house that you can't afford, but you're thinking twice. You know what I'm saying? That
Yep.
much different than 4 years ago. Now,
Yeah.
yes, there were people that were spending more than they should have, buying houses and all the things. But a lot of people that bought during COVID were financially sound enough to do so, and they
They
had the
were. And
means to do that. And if
yep.
they overpaid, they were insulated enough that they could do that. And I saw that where people were like spending 50,000, 75,000 over asking, and they're like, you know what, Jen, we're okay. We're paying half cash. We're gonna be here. We can afford the mortgage at 2.75% interest rate. We're
Yep.
fine with it because we're here for the long haul, and they can weather
Yep.
the storm. So fast forward, and people are starting to pull back. It's kind of a it could be engineered. Never mind what's happening with the new administration and the speed at which things are happening.
Mhm.
that influences the consumer confidence. Whether
Oh,
what's being
greatly.
done is the right thing, the right or the wrong thing, or the right
Yeah, it
way,
doesn't
the
matter.
wrong way, doesn't matter. I mean, I think
Nope.
we all collectively, regardless of which side you're on, I think as a whole, we can all agree that there's too much bloated. That our government was too bloated, and
Well,
something need to happen, but the way it's happening is making a lot of people a little bit a little bit nervous and a little bit
right. It's
unsure.
it's
So
you're exactly right. It would almost be like if you were on a lifeboat and there was three of you on this lifeboat and there was a hole in the lifeboat and you go, oh my God, water's filling up. We need to get this water out. And then you wait and you wait and you wait. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got to get this water out. And then you start jumping up and down and splashing. The other people in the lifeboat are like, oh my God, relax. Like this thing's going to turn over because you're making
yeah,
all these big, sudden, drastic movements and
right.
our boat's filling up with water. And that's exactly what's kind of going on right now. For a long time, I think people, like you said, on both sides of the aisle, you can go back and find news clips from 10, 15 years ago about people on both sides of the aisle going, we need to cut waste. We need to cut waste. And it's happening now, but it's happening at, like you said, a pace that at which not only is it the pace, but I think it's the pace and also maybe the lack of transparency with the people of what the goal is or what the finish line is.
Well,
And now I think
it's
consumers feel like we're just along for the ride
well,
and
and
we
that's the
don't
thing
really know
yeah, and I want to
what's
actually go
happening.
into this next article because it talks a little bit about that, the fact that the lack of understanding the path, because the plan
Yes.
keeps changing. The plan
Yes.
keeps changing, and that is causing a lot of people to be like, I don't know what I should do, so I'm not
Exactly.
going to do anything.
Not doing anything.
Now you're not putting money in the economy. You're not going to buy the house. You're not going to, now your consumer confidence level. I have no confidence because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
First they're doing this, now they're doing that, and I don't know what the heck is going. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Well,
So it's and I don't know if that's by design. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
all we know is the result, and you're right about the result. That's exactly what people do. And I just anecdotally, I had this happen 3 weeks ago at the dinner table with my family. My uncle's getting ready to buy a new car, a Lexus. Guess where Lexuses are built?
Yep.
Canada. And
Yes.
and and so he goes, I hurried up. I went and put my deposit down because I don't want these tariffs to hit, and then I don't want to get hit with a price increase. And then my mom goes, oh, I was going to buy a new car later this year, but now maybe I won't
So
because
well, and that's a twofold process, because now do you wait because of a financial reason to be like, I may be in a situation where I lose my job, or I can't afford, or
yeah,
do you wait because if a recession hits, guess what's going to happen? Those prices
right,
of those cars are going to tank, and you're going to get a better
right.
deal.
And and
You're
and
going to get a
ipso
better
facto,
deal.
we're back to going. We're back to consumers going, I don't know. I don't know what
Yep.
I'm doing. I don't know what's happening, so I'm not doing anything.
So this article was put out this morning, 5:15 a.m. And it's by Newsweek. I don't Newsweek. I'll be honest. Newsweek, in terms of my confidence scale, Joe, is not super high in terms of like, yeah, I have certain publications that I'm like, okay, we'll take it like a grain of salt. But the whole idea of this show is I want to take these headlines, whether I have full confidence in them or not, and dissect them to see if it's credible, right?
Well,
But
Newsweek is
but
perfect for that.
so those watching, I just want to let you know, like, we're not taking anything for gospel on these articles, because who knows who's writing them. But in any event, it is good conversation pieces, right? So it talks about
Yeah.
2025 recession means for homeowners and renters. Concerns about the 2025 recession are growing, with many watching closely to see how a downturn could affect the housing market. Homeowners may be in a stable position due to built up home equity and fixed mortgage rates. Renters could face tougher conditions if job losses mount and wages stagnate. Okay. Unlike the 2008 financial crisis, most homeowners today have low interest rates, low interest mortgages, and substantial equity in their homes. Okay. I don't think it's most, Joe. I think it's like 60%. I think that, substantial equity, yes, to a certain degree, if you bought more than 2 years ago. If you
Yeah,
bought
that's a
more than
good
a year and a
caveat.
half ago, right? I
Yep.
think that broad statement is not accurate because
Yep.
if you bought in the last year and a half, you will likely have equity. But if you put like 5% or 10% down, and then you add in what it would cost you to sell the house, you're breaking even barely.
Yep. And
So you're not in
and the other
a super like equitable place
right.
at this point in time. Eventually you
Right.
will be, but not so. So I don't think that broad sweeping statement is I don't agree with it.
Right.
It says these factors reduce the likelihood of widespread foreclosures or sharp declines in home prices. Okay, that I do agree with, and I'll tell you why is because of the fact that unlike 2008, the people were over leveraged and it was easy to get a mortgage and all the things. When the mortgage market tanked and then things went through the floor, the
Yep.
prices dropped 30% literally overnight. I was there. I lived it. That was that I remember 2006 very well, Joe. Why, you might ask? Ask me why.
Why, Jen?
Well, I'm going to tell you. Because 2006, the market crashed. My husband lost his job, and I found out I was pregnant with baby number 2. Trifecta. It was scary. And it happened overnight. It wasn't gradual. It wasn't easy. It was overnight. And because it was overnight, the people that bought during that 2008 financial crisis, they were no income documentation loans, low down payment.
Yep.
What does that mean? That means they had no equity to start with.
No equity.
Zero equity. That's why
Or
foreclosures
or
was an epidemic of foreclosures.
yeah, or
So
even negative equity because some of these people were taking over 100% over 100% equity loans.
short
And so
sales. Short
yes,
sales. I
yes.
did
They
quite a few of those short sales. They're nightmares. But
yep.
fast forward till now, and the fact of the matter is that we have not only recouped from that, the mortgage market is much different. It's much harder to get a mortgage, all the things. But the majority of the folks that bought homes during the last 5 years were either cash or substantial down payments. And the
Yep.
reason being is because there was so much demand. Because there was so much demand and low inventory, you as a buyer putting nothing down or 5% down, you're competing against 10 offers to try to get your foot in the door in a house. You're not getting it.
No.
These first
No,
time
we
home
saw it left
buyers
and right.
were, and you were, well, I won't say it on the live stream. You know what, out of luck, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and those were the people, those are the high risk folks that would be in foreclosure, but there wasn't a lot of that because they couldn't get their foot in the door. So I think that
No.
insulates a lot of them from from the foreclosures. I think, and if the prices, will prices have sharp declines? I do not see that to happen. I don't see
No.
that,
There,
because the situation is so different than it was.
it was.
Um,
And there's almost no data anywhere that supports any type of major price decline. I suppose that you could make an argument for some very, very specialized local areas could see some softening on prices. Areas in Florida and Texas where there was a lot of new home building. But in general, across the United States, I got news. If there's any crash bros in the chat that are waiting for the crash, you're just going to keep waiting.
Well,
Because
we don't want to crash. We don't, and I've said
no,
this
we don't.
before.
And
We don't. I mean, it sounds great to have a crash and have these big corrections in prices. If the housing market is the cornerstone of our gross domestic product in this country, when
yeah,
the
it's a
housing
quarter,
market
quarter of it.
crashes, everybody hurts. Your plumbers,
Yeah.
your electricians, your handyman,
Yep.
your retail stores, your house cleaners.
Everything.
The list is endless. All of those
Yeah.
people, if the housing market crashes and the homeowners are either in trouble or they can't afford to spend any money on any of that stuff, it affects a ton of people. Yes, it'll
It,
open the
it,
door, but
yeah.
but
Well,
it'll open the door to very few people. What happens is it opens the door to investors, which is
that's
who
what I was going
bought
to
all the
say.
property when the market crashed the
Yep.
last time. It wasn't
Yep.
people taking advantage of, oh, I can now buy a house.
No,
No, we
no.
were in a major financial crisis. Nobody was buying houses because everybody was nervous and scared. The people that were
Right.
buying were investors, and that led to an investor problem. Investors owning too many properties. Um,
Yep.
I want to jump on this chat. Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, lots of comments, lots of chat.
Susan says, I am quite concerned with the market. I was told it was the worst February in 10 years in home sales. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, the numbers are absolutely down, in terms of how many homes are being sold, how many people are writing, contracts, how many people are moving. There's no question. There's no question. And I guess the concern, I think, to ease your concern, my suggestion, my recommendation, I would strongly advise to look within your own situation. In other words, when I have anxiety. Seems like everybody's got anxiety these days. Like it's a club to belong to, I guess. But like when 50, almost 54 years old, you ladies, I'm talking about. Like it's that time, right? So, when I get freaked out about something, it's because I'm looking at too much stuff. I'm taking in too much information. I'm looking at all the things. And the answer is this. If you're thinking about buying or selling, you need to think about your situation, your finances, why you want to do it, how stable is your household, where are you going, all of those things. Forget about the outside influences because it doesn't concern you. It's your situation. Homes sell 365 days a year. There is not a month that has gone by where a home hasn't sold since the beginning of real estate, because there's always someone looking to buy. There's always someone looking to sell. Does it change? It makes it a little bit harder. Yes. Does it, on both sides, but you got to look at your own personal situation. And I would urge that, because that's part of that, what we were just talking about earlier, Joe, with that consumer confidence index. It's like, I'm nervous. It's like, okay, but how about you turn that anxiety or that nervousness towards, look at your situation. Now, if you're in a situation like I am, like you are, where our livelihood depends on it, then what I do, I'm going to do what I did in the recession and say, a great financial crisis, and say, well, I can control what I can control.
Yep.
I'm going to shore up my finances, and I'll deal with it when it comes.
Yep.
And that's all you can do. And I am not independently wealthy. Joe, I'll show you my checkbook. It is pretty anemic, but right now, last year was tough, but it's just like, it's, anyways, didn't mean to go on a side quest there. Let's see. AP says homeowners today are in a better position than back in 2008 during Great Recession. Most homeowners have lower interest rates on their mortgages and significantly equity in their homes. Yes. MHOA, Jen is too young to remember the stagflation in the 70s. You are correct. I was a wee little girl in the 70s. I was actually living in Germany the first couple of years of my life. I wasn't born there, but my dad was in the service. But yeah, no, I was just a little munchkin in the 70s. Joe, you weren't even thought of.
I was
sorry.
not even a thought.
A twinkle? You weren't even a twinkle in their eye.
No, I was nothing. I was stardust still.
MHA says that we need to catch our breath from the inflation over the past few years. Yes, and it's actually starting to come down. I got some data on that. Angie Madcat. God, I love YouTube handles. Home sales in my area are fine. And that's the thing. You know what, Joe? It's like, the other thing is when you are getting nervous, you read the news, you read the headlines, all the things, you got to remind yourself local.
And even more so now.
Absolutely. These headlines are generalized from a national level. They are not representative of your area.
No, that's absolutely the case. And on top of that, we need to remember that from 2020 up until still now, housing has been an everyday national news item, which is not normal. It's not normal for us to constantly dissect what are interest rates doing today? What are house prices doing today? What are pending contracts doing today? And ever since the COVID pandemic, we've been absolutely fascinated and intrigued by the veracity that the market has moved at. and for good reason. It's been quite amazing, astonishing what home values have done in the last few years. So I understand why that is. But people need to realize that now more than ever, the market that we've had for the last 5 years, you could paint very broad brushstrokes across the United States. In 2021, we didn't have to go, where are you buying or selling? We knew if you're buying or selling, it's bananas. It just is. We knew that. We didn't have
Mm-hmm.
to go, well, where are you and what type of house and all this. Now we're getting back to that. We're getting back to the point where people are going to read these national headlines and realize, wait a minute, that does not apply to my area. Just like Angie said, oh, home sales are fine in my area. And I'm sure there's someone else in this chat that's going, home sales are not fine in my area. And, home sales are one thing in my personal area. They're one thing in your personal area.
Yep.
So I think that's something that people need to realize is just hyper local has never been so important to keep in mind, because as the market shifts, it will not affect every area the same way.
100%. AP says, I will be a devil's advocate here. Could the real estate be a good hedge against inflation? Yes, yes, and yes. And what they're talking about there is, you have control over your money when you own real estate. If you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you are not at the mercy of. It's almost like it's a fixed asset.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about all of a sudden them, up in the rent. You don't have to worry about, that over time that real estate does appreciate. And if you disagree with me, look at the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Look at the last 50 years. You can't argue with that. Yes, the correction of great financial crisis, 30%, 35%. They say, you know what, Joe? I remember very vividly, people would say, consumers, people I talk to, will never get back to those levels again.
No.
Never. The prices were so overinflated, we'll never get back to those levels again. Look where we're at.
Yeah,
And this
surprise.
is not going away. It's not going away. And is it super ridiculously expensive everywhere on many levels? Oh, I don't disagree with that. It is hard.
Correct.
It is hard. But is the solution a 30% permanent 30% correction? Permanent? It's not.
No,
not going to happen. It's not going to happen
not.
because of the nature of the economy and real estate. I mean, I guess if we rolled everything back and became a, third world country or something, I don't know, but or something like that happened. But no, I think owning real estate. I mean, I think investing your money, period, Joe. Like if you're not going to do real estate, then you got to play in the stock market. That's not my game.
Right.
I don't know that market, that sandbox, and I'm not gonna pretend to play in it. But a piece of real estate, owning my home, I know my mortgages, and I know that eventually when I go to sell it, it's a fixed asset. I want to get back to this. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and AP is exactly right. Real estate has long been known to be one of the best hedges in a recession, because typically, regardless of whatever a recession does, typically your home price is still probably going to increase. The value is still probably going to increase over time. There's a very high chance that you'll be able to refi at a lower rate, which is thus saving you on a monthly payment. Think about that. How many things in a recession allow you the ability to lower the amount of one of your largest monthly bills? Well, a recession allows you to do that with real estate, usually. So, it's one of those things where, I agree. I think real estate is a great hedge against inflation. It's been known for a long time. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's not the stock market. At least I know that I can go to this address, point, and see exactly what I own. And if I need to, I can go live in it. I can sell it. I can rent it. I can write it off if it's an income property. There's all sorts of different things that I can do to enjoy the utility of that property, which you can't do with a stock.
So I had some clients that did that. I had that got into a situation where they're like, I lost my job, but I don't want to sell my house. So I'm moving back in with my parents, but I'm going to rent my house instead. And
Bingo.
They rented it. And then when things turned around, no, they've been paying down the mortgage and building equity as the market built back up. and
Yep.
now they've got this investment, this long-term investment. So you have
Yep.
options. I guess that's the bottom line. Is you have options.
Yep.
You have options. I want to get back to the content here on this article. It says, according to a report from Redfin, home prices are not expected to drop sharply. We kind of talked about that already. In the event of a downturn, most homeowners have locked in ultra low mortgage rates, meaning they're unlikely to sell unless absolutely necessary. Well, we've kind of seen it trending towards that. People being a lot more careful and cautious, which is why we don't have the inventory on the market right now.
Yeah.
It says even if and kind of it's backing up the other article said and so forth. Even if mortgage delinquencies rise, lenders today are more likely to offer modifications or forbearance rather than push for foreclosures. Banks don't want foreclosures, Joe.
No.
I worked with banks for several years. I represented banks on post foreclosure. What that means is, when you default on your loan and the bank takes the property back, once they have that in their portfolio, they have a real estate agent on speed dial, and they call that real estate agent. That real estate agent now is the boots on the ground. I went out to the property. I find are the people still living there? I have to serve eviction papers. I have to get the place cleaned out. I have to change the locks, yada, 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 and then get it ready to sell. That process is expensive, and there is no deal with the foreclosures. I would get countless phone calls to say, well, how much does the bank, what's the note? What was the note on the property? And, thinking that that's what the bank wants to
Right.
recoup. No. If you have a $500,000 property, it's worth, the street value is 500 grand, and the people foreclosed owed 300 grand.
Yep.
The bank's going to put a ticket. They instructed me list it for 500.
Right.
Period.
Of course.
They do not give a crap about what the note holds. They want to get as much money as they possibly can. So there's no deal in foreclosure. But the thing is it's very costly for them to have all of these properties on, in their portfolio. They will avoid doing that at as much as they possibly can.
Of course. It's
modifications are basically they modify your loan, and forbearance is they basically push the pause button on those payments.
Yeah,
For a certain
and
period of
that's
time.
something that a lot of people I don't think maybe understood in 2008 is that banks don't want to foreclose. Banks aren't in the business of selling homes. Banks are in the business of collecting interest on your loan. That is what they do.
Yep.
And when we have a scenario like 2008, where all of a sudden, like you said, practically overnight, all of a sudden banks go from we own 10 homes to we own 1,000 homes because everyone has foreclosed. Well, what that does is that waters down the value of their asset.
Right.
And
Right.
and it doesn't make them any more money. So the bank would just be much happier if you kept your home and just continued to pay their interest over the next 30 years.
It is true.
As
It
opposed
is
to
true.
being stuck with your house.
So, I mean, if that happens, then you become a renter, which is kind of what this article talks a little bit about, which is probably the as a homeowner, you have security, some way, shape, or form. You have more security than a renter does. The renters are the ones that are probably at the highest risk. It says that recessions are often they often affect the lower income workers more severely, which is something to remember. When you're worried about a recession, when you're worried about what's going to happen, you've got to take stock in where your situation is. You got to take stock in the fact that, okay, well, I'm in my house, I can afford my mortgage. Maybe I don't go out to eat. Maybe I just cut back on the groceries and not going to buy all the extra special stuff or whatever. You have that ability, but a renter, especially a lower income, renter, doesn't have that luxury. It says it could lead to reduced rental demand, lower rent prices. However, those who lose their jobs or see their wages stagnate may struggle to cover housing costs regardless of lower rents. This Manning, who's a Redfin real estate, Remax Gateway in Seattle, as managing broker, he says once a recession begins, declining consumer sentiment is often the first indication, and I do agree with that. And we were just talking about that of trouble ahead for home buyers, home sellers. As the economy goes through cycles of growth and contraction, consumer fear is as important as, or probably more than the actual underlying market conditions. Um,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more. I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, I'm looking through the chat here, and I want to pull up a couple of these comments because this chat is full of that fear, right?
I don't blame them.
Let's see here. Robin Van Kleist, thanks for being here. I am now scared of putting my house up for sale. I don't want to lose so much money due to a recession. It is not worth it. Yeah, I mean, and that's the hard part. You want to move or you need to move. Maybe you can't find something to buy. And now, because you're having a hard time figuring out where you're going to go, you press the pause button on the selling, but that creates anxiety for like, well, while I'm pushing the pause button, what if my property starts devaluing? And I would say I don't know, where you are in
That's
particular, Robin, what part of the
Yep.
country you're in, and that would be, and that is crucial, to know
Very.
because you might be in an area that can weather the storm. If you're in the Northeast, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's not. I mean, you've got a cushion. There are a lot of areas, Chicago area, Illinois.
Oh,
There's
yeah. The Midwest is going nuts right now.
but Colorado. You've got there are areas in the country that there is things make it slower, but you got breathing room. I think the biggest thing from a home seller perspective is adjusting your expectations on what may happen. If a house sold in your neighborhood in a hot second, it may take a couple weeks. It may take a month. It may take 6 weeks. And you don't want to get yourself into a
Great point.
situation where you're like, okay, I found a house I want to buy, and I have an offer in it, and I got to sell it and be in that house in 8 weeks. You might have just set yourself up to up for for some challenging times. You know what I'm saying,
Yeah, and I
Joe?
think it's important. I think it's important for sellers to also realize, kind of like you were saying, Jen, is and again, back to what I was saying, it's so hyper local now. Like to with Robin's comment, it's like I would love to know where Robin is geographically because, like you were saying, Jen, maybe she has a legitimate fear, maybe she doesn't. Yeah, and this is just the noise that is all around us all day, every day. But what I'd say is sellers just need to realize, listen, if your home doesn't sell in 4 days, don't worry, don't freak out, don't panic.
Try
Most
not
homes
to. Try
don't.
not to. Yeah, I refrain
Yes.
from telling homeowners, home sellers, home buyers, don't do this because we're not in their situation.
Yeah.
I would say try your best, right? Try your best, because it's no denying that it is. It's not, this is one component of your life and all the other things, depending on what's happening, whether you're dealing with health challenges or work challenges or extended family challenges or kids or any of the other 100 things that may be on your plate. It's tough. It's not easy, but you got to wade through. And I think
Yeah.
prioritizing is the way I do it. Prioritizing and getting crystal clear on what I want to do and why I want to do it. Susan says that mine is a for sale. Heartbreaking. I had to detach myself from my home, and like Janet, I don't know where I will go. My heart is breaking for you as well. That's tough, and I mean, I think detaching yourself from your home is probably the first step, right, Joe? In terms of like the emotional, part of the equation.
Yeah.
But I would say, get yourself, try to align yourself with a good real estate agent on the other end, in the general area of where you think you might want to go, if you know where that is. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to rent. Don't be afraid to rent for a year and try a place out. And don't feel like you need to just go straight into buying another home and, do some research and don't be afraid to rent and try out some places.
Delissa says, in the process for final closing and walkthrough on a home in the state of Connecticut. Nice to see you again. Hey,
Oh,
awesome.
congratulations.
Woohoo! Yay! Oh, let's see if I can get
Yay. Yeah. What a great
there we go.
accomplishment.
A little slow on the
And
uptake,
Connecticut
but
too.
we get
That's not easy up in Connecticut right now.
Connecticut. Angie's from Germany. There we go. I was just a babe when I was in Germany. My first crib was the drawer of a dresser, Joe.
Hey, it's
My
efficient.
my mother said that the little German ladies would pinch my cheeks because I'd be big old chubby cheeks all the time. Um, it says Angie says houses went from 30 plus days to 11 days on average last month. Hopefully that's a good sign. That's interesting because some of the home sale data that I've been watching from a national basis, it's been kind of I mean, we're so hopeful for a strong spring market, like that article said. Joe, we've talked about it. It's like we're going to get a little bit of break. We're getting a little bit of surge of a little bit back to, dare I say, normal,
Yeah.
semi-normal, and that hasn't
Yeah.
happened. That
No.
hasn't happened, and yet again. So, but that is. I'd like to know. Did Angie say where she's from? I don't remember.
I don't
Swiss cheese
think so. Maybe
brain.
in the
Swiss
very
cheese
beginning.
brain. Let's see here. Let's see. She says, but if your house loses value, wouldn't the house you're looking to buy also be cheaper? So it should even out, right? Thank you for asking this question. So that's depends. It depends. If you're buying in the same area, yep. And I have worked a lot of my clients that are staying like in the general vicinity of Massachusetts or the New England area. They're selling and they're buying another home. It isn't even, Stephen. If your house drops 5% on the value, the house you're going to buy drops 5%. However, if you're relocating to another state, maybe not. Maybe not. You might get a 5% drop on your house, but maybe the state that you're moving to is actually seeing, more stabilized market. It could also be
Yeah.
true the other way. Where, if you're looking to buy, Joe, if I'm telling you right now, if you're looking to buy a house or buy a property, investment, or a second home in Florida, get ready.
Yeah.
I get a video coming out Thursday about this, about the surge of Canadians selling and leaving, selling their vacation homes. There's going to be a lot of inventory and it's going to be a lot of pickings and you're going to see some good deals coming. You're going to see some really good deals. So you say you're moving to Florida full time, you're selling a house in New England and moving to Florida. Well, yeah, not only is that going to be not even Stephen, you end up way ahead.
And it looks like Angie said that she's in Southern California. So if you're selling a house in Southern California and also purchasing a home in Southern California, then yes, that type of 6 of one, half a dozen the other could very well apply. But Southern California is a big, diverse, eclectic area, and there are some areas of Southern California where market, prices are softening a little bit, and there's other portions of Southern California where it's just gangbusters. So it really, really depends where you're looking. But at least you're staying in the same general region. So one would think that yes, if the general region does one thing and both houses are in that region, then it'll basically even out, like you said.
Yep. What area in California is struggling the most? I mean, I had read San Francisco was struggling.
Yeah,
but what would you say? Because you're east of LA, right? You're
yes,
like
I'm
half
just
an hour east of LA. So,
yep, exactly.
So what area? Just curious, real quick.
I think that the
besides
the biggest
besides the wildfire area, obviously, right? So
yeah.
Take that out of the equation, but like in terms of just properties staying on the market longer and whatnot.
Yeah, I think generally kind of the central inland portion of California. So if we're talking about just Southern California, which is like kind of like from Ventura to Mexico,
Yep.
it's very active still, and it really is coming down to just a case by case basis, right? So as you know, Jen, if you have a good house, if it's priced appropriately, if it's presented well, we're still seeing that it's going to sell at a relatively good pace within a week or two.
2 words. Price, presentation. That's all you need.
Yes.
That's
bingo.
That's the magic sauce. There's nothing else you can do. No cookies you can bake. No fresh scent you can put in. No spit polish, whatever. Even if you take all my house prep videos and you do every single one.
Yep.
if your preparation is top notch, but your price is off,
It's all for nothing.
forget about it.
Yeah.
Susan says, I am considering deporting myself. Did you hear that that there's somebody famous that got deported today? The famous Mexican, Speedy Gonzalez. Meep, meep. Arriba. It was a TikTok I saw. It was breaking news. All official. Speedy Gonzalez just got captured and deported, and you see the little cartoon guy running around.
Yeah.
I just thought it was
That's great.
hilarious. You need to laugh. You absolutely need to laugh because
You do.
okay, total nut and recession talk, whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, guys. Like, you know, I had somebody comment on one of my videos that I laugh too much. Well, you know what? It's either laugh or cry. I don't take laughing all day long.
He said you laugh too much in your videos?
He said I laugh too much. I'm like, well, you're watching the wrong real estate YouTuber. Then you're not. I'm not.
Sorry for having a good time.
But you know what though? I'm serious. Like you know, Jackie and I talk about this all the time. You know, and if you can find humor in whatever ridiculously hard, impossible, depressing, challenging, heartbreaking situation, if you can find the sliver of humor, it changes your disposition and it changes your outlook. And then you can start seeing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my, what do you call it? Oprah moment or whatever, not back to boring real estate. Let's see. This one says I would strongly consider Florida no taxes. Well, no income taxes, but property taxes are ridiculous. Good info on Wait Not to Kid. Yes. Check out that video. Will be dropping on Thursday, for sure. I wanted to dig into something else though, Joe, that's kind of contributing to this as well. And this has been a hot topic. Not again, a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but notable because it does play into everything. And that has to do with the stock market. And this article, Realtor.com, made an article a week ago about stocks plunge as Trump trade policies sow confusion, what it means for the housing market. And there's the housing market, the stock market is all over the place right now.
It's, yeah.
And it is absolutely one of the indicators, right, that economists watch for the, you know, one of the leading indicators is like 6 of them, I think, 6 or 8 for signs of a recession, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes on to say, like, you know, the tech-heavy NASDAQ composite plunged 4% Monday, marked its worst day since 2022. Selling continued into Tuesday, and this was a week ago. Last Tuesday. Dow Jones Industrial Average down 500 points. I'm not going to get into the weeds about stock market because that is not my wheelhouse, but I wanted to go like big picture on this. It says the sharp decline in the major stock indexes followed growing confusion over Trump's trade policy, which we kind of alluded to earlier. It says after the president repeatedly announced and then wholly and partly suspended massive tariffs on Canada and Mexico, the country's 2 largest trading partners. In his latest move, Trump on Tuesday announced total tariffs of 50% on Canadian steel and aluminum, saying he was imposing the levies in response to Ontario's new 25% on electricity exports to the U.S. The constant, and here's where the issue is. The constant, it's not the tariffs is the issue, because we haven't seen anything as a result of the tariffs yet, Joe.
Correct. It's all talk.
It's all talk. It's 100% talk. The real damage that's being done is that the constant whipsaw of policy changes coupled with Trump's recent remarks that he is not concerned with the performance of the stock market has begun to raise growing fears of a looming recession. That's it in a nutshell. That's it in a nutshell, in the sense that, you know, the consumer, if you are seeing all of these things, you know, does it mean that there is a recession coming? Potentially.
Yeah.
Right? But when you're not getting any substantial information it makes things even more, overbearing and all the things. It says, it goes on to say that although the stock market is not the same as the economy, stock prices are essentially a prediction of future business profits, making them a leading indicator of economic conditions. A recent nosedive in the stock market could slow down the housing market even further as prospective buyers, and this is the thing I wanted to touch on, as prospective buyers are watching some of their wealth that they might be using for a down payment on a new home evaporate. This is according to Realtor.com senior economist Joel Berner. So even if you're not playing the stock market, and because a lot of folks, Joe, will take money out of their 401k. You can do
Yep.
that in a lot of situations. You can take it out without penalty when you're using it for specific purchases, like buying a home. But if you do have investments, you have an IRA, Roth IRA, or whatever not, other investments, and you're like, this is the money that I'm going to use. That's another indicator that could slow down the housing market.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, yeah. If people don't have the capital they need
Yep.
to, buy the house or get that down payment, I will say that to me, that's probably, that's probably a less of a concern, other than I still think the biggest concern with the stock market and the comments from the administration is the psychological effect of the chatter, right? I think that's
Yes.
number one, in my opinion. I think that most home buyers out there probably don't have a large majority of their funds dedicated for a house in a stock market, but they could. But still, nonetheless, when the stock market doesn't do good, it does two things. Number one, it limits income on people's 401ks,
Yep.
on people's IRAs, and just their investment portfolios. And number two, it's a big rain on your birthday party. It's not a fun event.
And who
It's
wants that?
doom and gloom. It kind of
Then you
hurts
get
morale, and it's just not good.
soggy cake,
Yeah,
and
it's so
that's no
good.
fun. You know what I
Not
mean?
all the
Nobody
confetti's
wants
all
this.
wet. No,
No, it does. You know what? Then your hair gets all. I gotta think about
it's a
my
whole
hair.
thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
Um, the article goes on to say another issue that I think we should just touch on too, Joe, is that home builders, and this is all contributing to the same. It's all these different things that are like this recession. The big R is this beast that is being fed, and all of these things are just feeding it potentially.
Yeah, different ingredients.
Consumer lacking consumer confidence, and and now stock market, and now we've got home builders, and the home builders that were, at the when Trump won, and rolled out what his plans were, and rolling back some regulations, really encouraging the new construction market to try to pump more homes into the market. They had a very optimistic outlook, and that has done a 180. And
Yes.
it says home builders have also raised concerns that tariffs on imported building materials could raise the cost to build homes, potentially raising new home prices. I have seen chatter that about the fact that builders won't be affected as much, or that they'll absorb the cost, or that it's not a big deal. Our largest supplier of lumber is Canada.
Yeah, there's no way it won't be a big deal for home builders.
It's impossible not to be. It's impossible not to be. And if the builders can't get the number that they're looking for to make the investment of building a home make sense, they are independent, and they're all business owners. And if it's going to cost them significantly more money to build a house, and the market doesn't support the number they need to clear to sell that house, poof. Now you have disappearing. It is like 2008 when builders pulled out. And 2008 created a big chunk of why we're in the situation of low inventory. Largely in part started in 2008 when builders hit the road because they got in trouble.
The impetus.
Yep. It says, however, a true recession could raise the opposite risk of falling home prices. If sharp job losses trigger distressed sales in the existing home market, which accounts for the vast majority of home transactions. For those who keep their jobs, a recession would almost certainly bring lower mortgage rates, which would improve affordability alongside any decline in home prices. Recent employment figures don't point to a recession upcoming, but as the Trump administration continues to fight a trade war, we may see softer employment figures coming up as businesses find that their international sales slow down and the cost of imported inputs increase. Here is my concern, Joe. My concern is that what we talked about earlier, and actually I'm going to show you, I'm just going to skip right to the meat here. So here's my concern. So you've got the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? It's unemployment. What date is this? This is February. Why? Because it only goes out to the previous month.
Yep.
We won't know until it's too late. Between when this report was, when they released this labor report, and between then and when the next one will come, is it possible that there's been mass layoffs, mass firings, mass resignations that haven't been reported yet? Yep. These aren't true numbers. So to say that there's a lag, and there's a lag in every single one of these statistics. So it's almost like you're lighting the fuse, but you're not going to know that the fuse is lit until it's almost ready to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing is that, the unemployment numbers were not bad because the new administration didn't take hold until the end of January. And so, not to say that I think that, I'm going to say the new administration in a broad sense, because I'm not saying that they're responsible for all the things, but what's happening as a offshoot. They may do this, which causes another independent business owner to be like, I'm getting really nervous. Independent breweries. I've watched several videos about, independent, what do they call them? Help me out here. You live in California, and you know about like these, what is it called?
Like craft breweries or microbreweries.
I couldn't find the words. I'm having
we got a ton of those here.
Flippant moment, menopausal moment. But those craft breweries, all of their materials, they get a lot of them, like the hops, that stuff is shipped in from overseas. They're closing their doors before they're getting ready. A lot of them are closing their doors, and all the people that work there are getting laid off because it's not sustainable for them. Do you know what I mean? All right. I lost track where we were. I know that we got Jackie Baker in the house.
The one and only.
The one and only Jackie Baker. Jersey Jackie. Jared, welcome. My mortgage in Lakeland, Florida, went up, but with a recession, would my mortgage get higher or would it lower my mortgage? That depends. It depends on if you are in an adjustable rate mortgage. Adjustable rate mortgages are going to be based on prime. And if the prime rate fluctuates, then your mortgage will, to a certain degree, you've got to look at your original note and find out what the terms are of the note to find out, what the adjustment is and how much of an adjustment. Because what they'll do is they'll adjust it. It could be 1 year, it could be every 5 years, it could be every 3 years. You don't know. You got to check, but there'll be a cap on how much it can adjust. So it may go up or may go down. But yes, I mean, to answer your question, if rates go down at your next adjustment, then your mortgage will follow if it's an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah, if it's a fixed rate, it shouldn't move a whole lot. You might have a little bit of fluctuation with property tax and insurance, especially in Florida, but that's probably not going to be dependent upon a recession.
It's going to be based on whatever the Treasury bill is, whatever's going on with the bond market, the T-bill. and which typically affects where the mortgage rates are. Remember that the Fed doesn't directly affect mortgage rates. It's what's
Yep.
happening in the investor arena. And, we might see, with the stock market doing what it's doing, we may see
Yeah.
mortgage rates come down regardless of
Yeah.
whether we're in a recession because
Yep.
of investors, being a little bit less confident,
Yeah. They want
so,
the sure thing, and the mortgages are typically a sure thing. So
yep. AB says uncertainty is not good for the markets. Amen.
very true.
Jared says on NPR just a few minutes ago, they spoke about home builders buying materials now before tariffs or recession hits. Yes. So, those that can do will and stockpile. A lot of people are doing that, but that
Yep.
is a short term situation. And the question being, Joe, is how much do they stockpile if again, there's rumblings of a consumer confidence waiver,
Yeah.
right?
Might be sitting on a bunch of drywall for no reason.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Oh, speaking of, Lynn, welcome. I don't. Lynn says I don't want any of that Chinese drywall in my house. Anyways, actually, across that in a properties disclosure statement this week. Good
Interesting.
Lord, that stuff's
Interesting.
that's crazy. Absolutely, absolutely.
At
Yeah,
least it was in the disclosure, and they didn't just, oh yeah, just gloss over it. That's good.
that's scary. We didn't have that. We weren't affected about that. Affected from that at all up here, but yeah, that stuff is scary. Um, Interesting. Susan says the tariffs have already started. My son's company just paid $20,000 more for one truckload of supplies.
Wow.
Wow.
And those costs have to be passed on to someone, right?
Yep. Yep.
They're not just going to absorb that $20,000.
So, DX5, can you please let him finish his comment? Yes. My apologies, Joe. My apologies. I get a little exuberant sometimes.
That's okay.
Not going to hold it against me, are you?
No, of course not.
AP says unemployment in 2008 was hovering around 10% versus today's unemployment rate of around 4%. That is true. And actually,
And it is interesting, when you have that graph up on the screen, it was very interesting to see, the downward slope in unemployment, coming off of the Great Recession.
Yep.
And it's so funny, if we take out the major peak of the 2008 recession and the major peak of 2020, it's actually a pretty consistent line.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get rid of that, and especially in the COVID era, if we get rid of
Yep.
the COVID spike, it's like we didn't skip a beat.
Right.
Which is,
right.
Kind of an interesting trend to realize that, hey, we had the COVID spike and now we're kind of back, and unemployment is trickling up a little bit, but it's still lower than on average where it was pre-great financial crisis.
Yep. Absolutely. I know it. And that's where we were. For sure. Let's see here. Lynn says, I'm hearing metal roofs are now expected to be replaced at 25 years in Florida. So where's my buyer's agent? Interesting.
You have metal roofs in Massachusetts, Jen?
You know what? New Hampshire metal roofs
snow
are,
maybe.
yeah, for well, that in proper pitch, but yeah, not so much here.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's significantly more expensive and not really necessary. We just don't get the snow that's not there's no need for.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no need. Let's see. I wanted to just touch on was there something else I wanted to touch on this? The only other thing I wanted to touch on was the an interesting thing that came up yesterday that this morning that I just want to mention, that the home prices for the stats for the home prices came out for February. They grew. So we're in a confusing time here, Joe, because regardless of all the things that are happening in this country, the economy and all the things, and we haven't seen the growth in the housing market that
Hmm.
we were hoping to see in it's getting into the spring market, and yet prices still grew. They are slower than they were, the slowest pace since July, and that's coming off a very slow fall, right? So it's extremely slow fall in winter, of course, but they still grew. So I just think
Yep.
it's again, it's on a national basis, right? It's on a national
Yep.
basis, but I think looking at the big picture. So I mean, I guess the bottom line here, right, as we're wrapping up here, whatnot. I think the bottom line, and if you are thinking about making a move, find clarity, right? Find clarity on why you want to do it, where you want to do it, when you want to do
Yep.
it, what the most important thing is to your own household, right? Um, Make sure that your funds. I think the financial thing is going to be the thing that is probably the most important thing, Joe.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're stable financially, then recession, no recession, and do your thing, and let's see where the chips fall. And we've got 40. I had read that it was about 40%, 45% confidence that we're going to have a recession this year. That's what I've read. But what are your thoughts?
I heard most recently, as of today, it was around the high 30s number, in terms of people that was upgraded by, oh gosh, one of those big banks, not Goldman Sachs, but one of those big, financial outlets was like, oh, we're upping the recession risk to 37% or whatever. And again, I would say that uh, it's part of our cycle. We
Yep.
shouldn't be too surprised if we hit a recession, because it's been a while since. Now the last one we had was, I mean, groundbreaking. It was epic. It was the greatest recession that we've ever had.
Yeah, it's been a
So
long time. 18
yeah, so it's
years.
it's it's nice that we've had a reprieve, but we are very overdue. And I'd say, kind of like you said, Jen, you don't want to put too much stock into it. You don't want to be too worried about it. But at the same time, you need to pay attention. You need to prepare.
Yep.
And you need to make sure that you're in a position where, if a recession does hit, that you're not going to be too over leveraged or overexposed. So be smart with your money, be smart with your investments. And at the end of the day, you just got to, like Jen was saying, you just got to pay attention to your personal situation, and you got to make a decision that works for you. That's all you
And
can do.
I would, and you know what, the bottom line being too is that it sounds like we're sidestepping the question or being vague, and the reality of it is we are, because we don't know your situation, and it's going to
Yes.
be
Good
there's
point.
Susan says, so do we sell or do we stay, do we buy or rent? And the answer, Susan, is it depends.
I mean, we could have a whole
It
stream on
depends.
Susan's situation right now. I mean, we could talk about an hour. Well, this and well that. So to your point, Jen, yes, there's so many variables that
and
that
and,
go into
and
this.
not
It's hard for us.
variables, not in the economy, variables in your personal economy.
Personal. Hmm.
Personal economy, right?
Yeah.
And Susan, that would be the answer. The answer that you're looking for is, you've got, again, take stock of your personal situation. Honestly, Joe, when folks are trying to figure this question out, and I have this question all the time. People are trying to figure out. They don't just call me and be like, "Okay, I'm ready to buy or sell," and this is I know exactly what I want to do. That does happen,
Oh,
but sometimes, but a
rare,
lot of times, no.
rare.
They're calling me for advice. That's what I do for a living. They're like, "Jen,
Yep.
should we do this?"
Yep.
And I honestly tell them, and I've said this before, a good old fashioned pros and cons list. And these are the things. This is where things are good. This is solid. They're stable. Yada yada. Here are all the reasons why I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then you take a step back, and the answer becomes clearer. Maybe not clear, because maybe you might have two options, and you
Mhm.
say, okay, well, which option? Those two options. Which is going to be the riskiest? Which is going to be the
Yep.
the safest? All the things. I mean,
That's
if you
such good advice.
know where you want to go. You're like, I have a town that I've always wanted to live in, or I want to be near family, or whatever, whatever. Great. then you're probably not going to, that might change your answer versus, well, I want to move, but I'm not quite certain where. So maybe you rent so you can figure the
Yep.
area out. If you're moving to an area that you know nothing about, then yes, could the prices go down? Could the prices go up? You don't know, but the reality is for you, you need that bandwidth, you need that time, that wiggle room to figure out what it is. You may go down there, rent for 6 months and say, I hate it
I
here.
hate it.
I hate it.
This place
I
sucks.
do not want to live here.
Right.
I
Right. Well,
am
and
out like I am. This is on like Donkey Kong. I'm gone.
yeah.
I
No,
am
you're right.
gone.
And I would say, it's so funny. I always tell my clients, Jen, even when it's just like, hey, we're thinking about putting in an offer on this home, Joe. What do you think? I always tell them, listen, the first thing we got to do is, in order to make a decision, we have to gather information. We can't make a decision unless we have the information to make the decision. And like you said, write out a list, pros and cons, what you're excited about, maybe what's scary about whatever you're doing, the good parts of the move, the bad parts of the move, whatever. And then just do some research, talk to a good local real estate expert, talk to your CPA, talk to your accountant, figure out what are the tax implications, what are the money implications, get answers to all these questions. And then once you have the information, you can start to process it, go through it, and then formulate a conclusion and then a decision. But you got to have the information.
The one piece of advice, the very strong piece of advice that I would give in that process is one thing I don't want you guys to do. Do not, please, please, please do not talk and base your decision after only talking to one real estate agent. If you know the agent, you've done business with the agent, you've vetted out the agent,
Yes.
trust the agent, different story. But if you have an agent that was referred to you by your neighbor or your friend or who sold houses in your neighborhood and you really haven't done any homework, that's the first thing you need to do. Interview at least 3 agents. I talk about that on the channel and how to do that and all the things. I've done videos about it. But
Great advice.
Because Joe, and you know how passionate I am about the state of the real estate industry. The state of the real estate industry is pitiful.
It is. It's horrible.
80% of the agents are not worth half of what they're getting paid. And their advice is not only worthless, could be harmful to your decision.
Yes, could be detrimental to you.
You could have an agent that sounds like they're working in your best interest, but then come to find out, they're just telling you what you want to hear instead of telling you what you need to hear. Those are not people you want to make life-changing decisions, according to. So you got to interview at least 3, right, Joe? I mean, at least 3 agents.
Oh, at least,
and go through the process before you can start accepting advice. You got to fact check.
And a personal referral is always, if you know, like, and trust your friend, your colleague, your family member, and they have someone they know, like, and trust, it's a great spot to start. Don't just hit Google.
Start. I would still interview somebody else just to have, you just never know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had a couple people that have reached out for referrals within my network, because that's what I do, and connect people across the country with my network. And, I get messages from them and they're like, you know what? My sister put me in, I don't know what to do. My sister put me in touch with this agent and they're terrible.
Yes, I know.
And I talked to the person that you talked to and it's like, holy cow, I didn't realize that they're really not a great agent because they hadn't talked to anybody else. But sometimes you do that and you realize, you know what? The referral from my friend is a really good agent. You know what I mean?
And then you go, hey, I really I should trust this person because I talked to 2 or 3 others and they don't know up from down, and this person actually knew what they were talking about. So hey, you know what? I think they're trustworthy. I can go with them. So any way you slice it, it's good to get multiple opinions.
Angie says, I know exactly what I want to do now. Will it happen exactly like that? Who knows? Well, you know what? The time will tell. The universe will tell you. I guess, I don't know. Best laid plans, right, Joe? That's why it's good to have a backup plan and be flexible. And be flexible. I always tell my folks, make sure you have a backup, like a worst case scenario type of situation, just in case. But prioritize it so you have options. There's power in options. There is
Yeah.
tremendous power, is because if you set yourself up in a situation where, if say you don't find something, if you're okay being where you are, and you really want to move, maybe you need to move, but you're nervous about being able to find something, everything's going to hinge on you finding something, because the backup plan is you don't move, and it might
Yeah.
mean inconvenience and all the things, but you won't be homeless.
Yep.
And that's a good thing to avoid.
Yeah. Typically.
Angie, yes, Joe is in Claremont.
I am.
Absolutely.
I'm in Claremont.
Kathy, thank you so much. She says, keep laughing, and I'll keep watching. I don't think
Good.
I can not laugh. It's in my DNA. Joe, you are a rock star, and I apologize if I was cutting you off. I didn't even realize it. I just get
No.
really, we have good conversations, right?
We do. It's always so much fun.
100%. But Angie, you can find Joe here. His YouTube channel is linked in the description. But if anybody's looking for LA, east of LA, any of that area, just check out Joe. Live streams, all the live stream every week and all the things, talking
Yeah,
about
in
what's
fact,
going on in the housing
we're
market. Well, that's a fun thumbnail.
we're live
right
streaming
there.
tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So anybody on the West Coast or up late on the East Coast, if you want to join in for some more real estate fun, right on that channel, we'll be talking. I got a couple ideas for a topic. I actually had a recession outline, and then I think Jen, and you're familiar with this. We're gonna go visit the real estate subreddit, and we're gonna go look at some of the fun experiences that some of the people are having with some of their poor decision making.
Oh,
when it
that
comes
sounds
to real
like
estate.
fun. That sounds like fun. I was actually thinking about that the other day. That it might be to give some levity to the
Yeah.
conversations. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
do that. So I might steal that idea.
Yeah,
I hope
please
you
do.
don't mind.
Please.
And and hey guys, there's a link in the description if you want me to connect you to one of my preferred agents. My agents are not me going on Zillow and just picking out an agent. I have a network that I interview them, pre-interview them. These are folks that I actually have another network that I belong to that, some of the top agents, relational agents, in the country. And then I go through and interview, make sure they're up to my standard. Basically, I won't refer someone that isn't going to do business the way I do business, because I want to be able to stand behind them, and feel good about that. So, yeah. But that is all we got. Hey, I appreciate Joe. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate
Thanks for
all
having
you
me.
guys chiming in the chat and all the things and sharing your stories as always. It makes it's Joe is probably the thing I love the most about the live streams.
I think it's the best thing, being able to interact directly with the audience, to get their feedback. I'll tell you what, I think you hit the nail on the head again, Jen. The best part about live streaming is being able to interact real time with your people, chat with them in real time. And I'll tell you what, and I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure Jen would probably agree. The things that make the live streaming the best are when you have people that are engaging with you, they're active, and it's a lot of fun. So the chat's been great. You guys have been wonderful. The chat's been great today.
Angie, real quick, you can message me about that, and we can talk about that for sure. I'm happy to vet out an interview. And Cookie, my deepest apologies. I'm gonna have to check and see where things are at with you on that. Yeah, you know what? I apologize if that it fell through the cracks. I feel terrible about that now. Well, I'm gonna have to take care of that right after we get off the live stream. So my deepest apologies, for sure. So hey, I have to check my email. I got those. I get that Google Workspace email, Joe. And sometimes those emails, they go in, the ones I send go into spam, the ones sometimes, my spam folder is chock full sometimes. Drives me crazy. Anyhow.
It happens.
It does. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining and participating. Be good, be kind, take a breath this week.
Yeah.
Things will be okay. Things will be okay. And onward ho. I'll see you guys all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you soon. See ya.
Bye.